Welcome to the Dog Trainers Podcast,
a podcast created by dog trainers, for dog trainers, or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
Hey everybody, welcome back and thank you so much for listening to the Dog Trainers Podcast. Mariano Alvarez here with Brent LaBrada. This is take 4 of our intro because we're totally good at this. And before we get into our very special guest who we're super excited to speak with, I've got to let you guys know, we have to give shout outs to the people who have been showing us love on Instagram. We love you guys back. So thank you so much, Nathan Cox, Elizabeth Marshall, Joey Strubble, Tristan Bain, Sam Hockey, and Isabel Lopez. Thank you guys. And with that, over to you, bro.
What is up, guys? Yes, this has been an interview very long in the making. We're super excited. I had the ability to witness this guy's teaching at a seminar out in Irvine, California, just a couple months ago. And I'm so privileged to finally get him on. And Mariano's never met him, but I told him the other day, I was like, oh, when you meet this guy, you're going to freaking love the shit out of him. Not only his personality, his dog training, his story, his methodologies, all of that is just, I'm a huge believer that our new special guest is going to be very influential in the dog training business. I would like to, with no further ado, introduce Mr. J-Jack. How are you, man?
Too much, bro. Too much.
What's up, bro?
Too much. People I know everybody does that. Everybody, I know a lot of people like that, and I'm just like, ugh, it always makes me uncomfortable.
Okay, never mind. It's that one guy, J-Jack. How you doing?
Anyway, they're like, it was some guy that had some cool shit to say. This guy, Jay.
Yeah.
Bro, awesome. No,
how are you, brother?
I'm good, man. How you guys doing?
Good, man. Thanks for being on with us.
Yeah. That shit used to get to me when I was back in the day when I was fighting. It was like when it was a nothing, like a nobody thing, like a nothing. Like when it was illegal and you couldn't even talk about it. You know what I mean? Like it was just like you're at the store getting Gatorade and tape and somebody's like, what are you doing? You're like, I can't really tell you. I was like, it's illegal. You know, we can't even talk about it. Right.
You're like, there are rules.
That was great. Like I felt really comfortable, but the day it turned into like people wanting to interview you and like your face is on the marquee, I'm just like, ugh, starts getting into my discomfort zone. I hate that shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude,
well,
dude,
it's hard to take
hear
compliments sometimes.
Well, plus, man, like honestly, it's funny because like we're getting deep right away, but like I don't feel like I have hardly anything unique at all to say. You know what I mean? Like I think my gift is in translating the ideas of people far better than me in ways that can make people get it. Do you know what I mean? Like that's always been my, even in jiu-jitsu, like I could like be in a class where somebody way better than me is teaching something and the kid next to me would go, what? And I would go, move your foot. And he'd, oh, okay. And like, I'm not even that good at the move, but I can see what that guy's trying to say. Like I translate well. You know what I mean? Like I can see the bubble, like a cartoon. I can see the bubble above the other person's head, and I can see the bubble like above the teacher's head, and I can see the bubble above the learner's head, and they don't match. And like I can go, okay, wait a second, let me say this and this and this, and now they line up. Do you know what I mean?
It's like you're an interpreter almost.
Yeah, dude, I feel like that for sure. So I'm always like, when people are like, man, he's good, I'm like, but I'm not really. I'm just regurgitating better people's shit. But
you're really good at making things make sense, and that's the power of being an educator and a teacher, right? Well, and what's the big key in pet dog training? Being a damn good educator.
Well, that's the thing. Like being a communicator is the most important part, I think. You know what I mean? Teaching is the craft I'm really good at. Like jiu-jitsu and dogs, both cool, but like teaching is my gift.
Yes. I have a quote here that I kind of wrote down. So something, it's funny how I couldn't go to the seminar in Irvine. It was just like a last minute thing, and I'm out in Phoenix. It was a bigger commitment for me, right? Which is why I'm looking forward to St. Louis.
Oh, you're coming to St. Louis?
Oh yeah, coming out. Yeah, we're both coming out.
It's very cool.
Yep.
That's why I was like, let's roll.
Bring your short stick.
I wasn't talking shit. You and I are gonna fucking roll.
Yeah, of course.
So here is the quote that I had written down, which makes me think of you because Brent was lucky enough to go to Irvine, and he was just like, man, just the way Jay explains things, and and it all came back to like explaining, and I practice BJJ too, and I know exactly what you mean. Like there are real experts, but not necessarily good at like explaining what they're doing. A lot of times they'll help with something as little as like snapping, like something that really helps me. If two guys are wearing 2 blue gis and you just look like one big blue bundle, they'll say something like, hey, my right hand, and they'll pick it up and snap like this so that you can see before they put it back in position, and like it helps you follow, and
Dude, you want to get deep, you go like this, right? Like when you're talking to somebody across, like I learned when I was young, like I'll say opposites. because you're looking at me in mirror form. So I'll pick up my right hand and go pick up your left hand, because some people are visual and they cue in on what you're doing. And then other people are auditory and they cue in on what you're saying. Do you know what I mean?
So I do. And that's exactly what I've been studying lately. Is the kind of the major pillars of like learning theory. There's the visual, audible, like the kinetic physical learners and whatnot.
Tactile.
So anyway, the quote is this, and this quote is from a woman who owns a firm who, what this firm does is they're hired on by other big companies as like HR department to teach whatever the company needs these people to learn. So like they give you the content and then you come up with the way to deliver the content. Okay. And it is trainers, and I don't mean dog trainers, I mean just like trainers. Trainers are often hired because of their subject matter expertise, not necessarily because they are training experts. And so while that can lead to expert content, the content delivery may not ensure or maximize actual learning. And that is from everybody I've heard, which is why I'm so looking forward to speaking with you, is what you are super good at. Teaching in a way that people actually pick it up.
So it's interesting because I started in martial arts. Like I've been in dogs and martial arts both since I was a baby, right? Like I think I had my first dog around the time I took my first karate class, right? Like 5 years old for both. But I studied martial arts as a form of, not just like a recreational thing, but like as a vocation. Like I wanted to be, like I knew when I was a little kid, I was like, I'm going to have a school. Like as a child.
Nice.
As dumb as it sounds, you know what I mean? Like some fucking 6-year-old kid going, I'm going to be a karate teacher. But like I knew when I was a little kid, I was like, saw very clearly. I was like, this is what I'm doing for sure. No question. And there's never been anything else. Like I've never even considered anything else. You know what I mean? Like even when I was fighting professionally, it was just an offshoot. It was, to me, fighting was a way to prove theory, proof of concept. Like how the same thing, you take dogs to dog sports, right? Like I've got a well-trained dog. Yeah, no shit. Show me your dog. Let me see. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like I only started fighting. I mean, one, I enjoy fighting, and two, it was money, but it was like, it was a proof of concept thing. I'm standing in front of people going, believe in me. I can teach you something. How do I know for sure that I'm not just full of shit? Because in the dog training industry and in martial arts, like charlatanism is fucking bad. Like really rampant.
Indeed.
Like really rampant, right? So but it was like I started studying the idea of teaching as a really young kid. So like when you're in a karate school, like when you're 10, you're teaching 8-year-olds. When you're 12, you're teaching 10-year-olds. You know what I mean? Like I've been in front of a room trying to explain shit to other people since I was like in single digits, you know?
Yep.
Right.
And,
that's
you want to know what's funny?
Craft.
I didn't know that about you, but I'm the exact same way.
Oh yeah.
When I was in 5th grade, I'd go and be a TA in 3rd grade. I would on my recess, I'd go visit my 3rd grade teacher, and I'd be like, "Can I help you teach them like multiplication tables?"
Nice.
And I would always regurgitate information that I had just learned a year prior, 2 years prior, because it makes me better at it, right? And so that's something
God, I was terrible in school, bro. Couldn't do it. I was so terrible in school.
I only got good grades to fit in socially, so like to hang out with my friends.
Yes,
because if it wasn't for my friends, I would have fucking failed.
Social fitting in has never been a priority for me. I've never really, like, my superpower is kind of not caring about social acceptance.
Like, yeah, sure.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, to me, honestly, like we'll get all deep and shit.
Yeah.
Like that to me is like one of the most rampant diseases in humanity right now, is like the need for social acceptance. It's like, it's bad. It's debilitating. People are dying, like losing themselves, like desperate to find acceptance in other people.
Yep.
It's weird, man. It's fucking real bad. But anyway, I've never kind of felt that. I don't know if it was because I couldn't fit in at all and then just went fuck it and gave up on it, or if I was born without it. I don't know if it was nature or nurture. I'm not sure. But but I just never had that.
What's funny is just before we started recording, for everybody listening, Jay was telling us, you were saying something that you hear kind of a lot in more like, how do you put this? Like more, I guess, successful people, productive people. It's, that you were like, I don't know, man, like people give me compliments and I have a hard time like accepting. I feel like I'm just another guy who found another way to do this. I don't think I have any one superpower. But the funny thing is, I think you would agree, you tell me if I'm wrong, being comfortable enough to be that person, just kind of be who you are, not to sound like cheesy about it, is that superpower that a lot of people don't have.
100%.
Yeah.
Like if somebody goes, man, I'm really look up to the fact that guy is completely authentic and does not hide any aspect of him. So like that, that to me is not that doesn't feel like I mean, I know it is a compliment.
It's like a factual observation.
Yeah, it's like saying that guy has big ears. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I do. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm not like, do you know what I mean? But I also don't, it's weird, dude. This is a totally different, deep, weird conversation. But like, I also don't allow, this is a little bit of a stoic practice. Like, I don't allow myself to feel good about others' opinions of me. Like, it is impossible to let yourself fall into the being validated by the opinions of others, because then when somebody goes, I have a low opinion of you, it by contrast invalidates you.
Yeah.
And
right.
So like, yeah, man, you cannot injure me with your opinions of me. Like, I give no fucks whatsoever, but I also don't allow myself to give any fucks about the good part.
But see, maybe that's important though, because something that I tell clients with dogs quite a bit is oftentimes I'll get a dog that's, let's say like reactive, like legitimately will be reactive toward strangers who come into the house, right? People they don't know. And they talk about how the dog gets so on edge, and they just explain like excitement mixed with nervousness, right? The dog's moving, the dog's barking, the dog's whatever. And then they tell me, oh yeah, and by the way, when my husband comes home, who he does know and loves very much, he also jumps and goes crazy and this and this. And I'm like, well, you know, I personally believe that in order to help your dog be calmer when someone they don't know come in the door, you also have to practice them being calmer when someone they do know comes into the door. I feel like if you can't control your emotions when you're happy, you ain't going to control them when you're upset.
Yeah, like emotional control is emotional fluency.
Is emotional control. Right. You know, so I find that funny that you say that, and I feel like, you know what, that makes total bro science sense to me. I want to look into like maybe it's a thing. I have no idea.
Yeah, but not give a fuck.
but it makes sense though. Like it does make sense. I guess here's a question for you, since we dove right in with super deep stuff, is so you have this, you know, I know you disagree, but you have this kind of natural superpower of not really caring what people think, which people are fucking starving for. I'm sure you've heard in
I mean,
other,
there has to be a genetic component. You know what I mean? Like, I had to be born with a little bit and not given I mean, yeah, I don't know. Some of it was beat out of me, and like some of it I failed. It's like extinction. Like, I failed to be able to fit in. I was fortunate in the way that I grew up in a fucking terrible situation. I grew up in a bad way, bro. You know what I mean? Like, I grew up in Louisiana in the like late 70s, like I was born in 73. So like I grew up in the 70s and like late 70s, early 80s. Right. And, I was very, very poor, and I was around like punk rock biker scene. Right. Like, so like I rebelled against the biker scene. Like, I'm going to be a punk rocker. You know what I mean? Like, stupid. But it was like, dude, I'm literally like, I'm broke as hell. Right. So like in Louisiana at the time, things are segregated both racially and socioeconomically. Right. So like, you know, unfortunately, if you are super poor, you are on what would be referred to as the black side of town. You know what I mean? It's the poor side of town, but unfortunately it's socioeconomic and racially divided, you know?
Right.
So like none of the black kids liked me because I was white. And none of the white kids liked me because I was poor. And none of this clique liked me, but like this super blue collar kids that might have liked me because I was poor and white didn't like me because I was like biker kid. You know what I mean? Like, so I had nothing. I just had nowhere.
Just didn't fit in anywhere.
Just nowhere. Yeah. Everywhere, everybody fucking hated me. Everywhere I went, it was just fuck you, kid, and fight. Everywhere I went, no matter what. And like, it's unfortunate in the sense that it did some damage for sure. You know what I mean? Like, it caused some issues for me. I had like super bad temper problems. I was super hyper vigilant, shit like that. Like, it's not great, but I was unable to find a large group in which to fit. I was literally unable. Like, I'm sure I remember being super young and like trying to put on like an outfit, like to go to school for the first day. I'm so young, I don't even remember like what it was, but I remember like, I'm going to try. I'm going to fucking try. And it just got in a fight immediately. Just got sworn off, got in a fight. Anyway. Like, it just didn't work at all. It was just stupid.
I'm going to try and fit in.
I was just like, fuck this. You know what I mean? Yeah. Shaved half my head, fucking stood my hair up, put a safety pin in my nose. Like, let's fucking scrap. Like, I just don't care. But had I been successful, had I found some cool clique in which to fit, it likely would have started that lifelong thing of feeling like I need to fit, but I was just unable to find it. And what I have realized, sadly, is it's a really weird thing. Authenticity is like a really strong magnet. And like I was a complete fucking reject until probably 14 or so. And something weird happened at 14. Like after surviving 14 years of being a complete fucking, like just a reject, like everybody fucking hated me. I remember one year I went to school and like everything was different. Like all of a sudden, everybody's like, "Hey Jay, how you doing?" And I'm just like, "Who the fuck are you talking to?" Get away from me.
Where you look behind you.
Fuck you, bro. Get away from me. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden the cool girls were like, "Hi," and not like, "Get away from me, you loser." And I'm just like,
it was the testosterone. That's what happened.
Well, no.
We're not giving a fuck.
What happened? Like, honestly, what happened? I mean, one, I got old enough to start really doing some damage. And with that comes a little bit of social equity, like comes a little bit of power, sadly.
Little status,
like,
yep.
And that's what like people start moving out of the way, and then everybody like takes notice of who the guy that's making people move is, and yada yada. And that's a sad statement about a kid finding value and being dangerous. Like that's a terrible thing to learn. Like we get into dog training, like this is what happens with dogs as well. You know what I mean? They learn the value of being aggressive, and that's no good. But it's like, I don't know, man, like it was a thing where after a while, the surest sign of power is not giving a fuck. Like you do this when you practice with dogs, man. A dog comes in and you're trying to convince it that you're like, it's like all fucking half aggro and like all scared and like trying to prove himself. Well, how do you act with that dog? You act like you don't give a fuck.
Chill.
You don't act scared. You don't act aggressive. You can't like, you don't put up. You don't like puff out your little chest. You act totally fucking neutral. Dead neutral. The surest sign of power is like not caring about the outcome. If somebody drops a $10 bill and they go, "Oh my God," and they dive on it, they're clearly broke. If they drop a $10 bill and go, "Oh, that's a bummer," and it floats away, they're clearly rich. Like, do you know what I mean? Like they don't give a fuck about it. So it's like that indicates their position to the thing that they don't care about. Right. And so when I stopped giving a fuck, it made people go, "There's something to that guy." And then there was a certain amount of magnet, like attraction that happened. Fortunately though, I was smart enough, lucky enough maybe, to not let that go to my head. Because I think what happens to most people is when they finally do get that attention, they just gloat on it, swell on it. And they're like, finally it's here. You know what I mean? And they get all weird about it. But I did not. I was just like, nope. No, you didn't like me last year. You ain't gonna like me this year either, kid. Sorry.
Bro, can I propose something to you? I just want to hear your thoughts on this.
Sure.
Okay. So again, I find it very like fascinating that what you're saying is like because what you're saying about power being you don't influence me, right? Like the dog or the other person or whatever the case. It's funny that I'm reading the dictionary definition of power. It's like it's really spot on. Like the dictionary definition of power, the second definition of 3 is the capacity or ability to direct or influence the behavior of others or the course of events. So it is interesting that like even in like a straight up definition, lack of reaction, like if a dog's reacting at you and your lack of response, you're just kind of chilling, just waiting the dog out, conveys to them, if you like by definition don't influence my response, you don't have the power here. Right?
So it's a really interesting thing. Like if you like this is dog training, but it is also humans. If you start to get the picture, like everything for me is the same. Like jiu-jitsu, dogs, fighting, philosophy, it's all the same shit. Like it's literally all the same shit. So there's this really interesting concept. Beings only know what they are in the reflection of other things, right? That's how you know what you are. Humans have the interesting ability to keep a self-image spite of the reflection of other things. And we're the only animals that I'm aware of. Maybe a fucking dolphin can do it, and I just don't know yet. You know what I mean? But like land mammals ain't doing it. Like there's no other animal that has the ability to hold on to a self-image in spite of the reflection of other things. Now they're still not that good at it. Because like if you take a kid and you raise it and you convince you're a little piece of shit, and that's all anybody does is tell it it's a little piece of shit. Even though in theory it could hold on to this identity that is not a piece of shit, it is quite difficult. It has the ability to, which is how some people overcome that. We have the ability to, but it's still not easy. It's not an easy task. Like it goes against everything in nature. Nature tells you that you are what you are reflected back to you. Do you know what I mean? And that's a huge concept.
Like show me, don't tell me.
No, that's a huge concept. So there's these really interesting videos I suggest everybody go watch when you're thinking about whatever it is, dog training, self-defense, doesn't matter. I recommend them to both crowds, right? Both crowds get recommended these videos. There's one video of like these Maasai or whatever they are, somewhere in Africa, right? Like these 3 skinny dudes with pointy sticks. Like that's it. Shit. And there's like these lions that have taken down a gazelle or something, right? And they're just like covered in blood. These are fucking lions, like predators in the middle of a kill. And these dudes stand there and like dead, like perfect extinction. And they all take 1 step forward and stop. And the lions, like when they move in, they posture and they're like, they fucking posture up, right? And these guys make no blinks, no faces, no nothing. And they step in again. And as you're watching it, you're like, these dudes are going to die. Like, holy shit, these guys are going to get fucking mauled. You're like waiting to see the like when animals attack video. You know, you're like, this is going to be fucking ugly. And at some point they take a step in and you see the lions go like, what the fuck, and run away. And they just walk up and take the carcass.
Take the gazelle. Wow.
So the idea is...
And that's how you fix resource guarding, everybody.
Well, I mean, in mild... Like, the truth is, there's a lot of cases in which you can do that because, again, most beings, they're not pathological. Like, they are finding strategies that work, and they have an identity which is based on experience of what has functioned for you in the past. Of course, and you go through these things and you discern this idea of what I am. Like, I am this thing. This is what I am, a fucking lion. And you know that you're a lion because you step forward to somebody and you go, brah, and they reflect back to you a lion. They back up, they jump, they squeal, and you're like, yeah, I'm a fucking lion. And you, the more you experience it, the more convinced you are of that reflection. But the cool thing with animals is they're not able to hold that image in the face of, like, they can for a second. Like all animals, like if you have a history of reinforcement, you're going to hold on to it a little bit. But like a person can undergo 20 years of like people trying to convince them they're the opposite, and they can hold on to that identity and come through the other side. Fucking dogs can't do that. You know what I mean? Lions can't do that. So
is it almost like our identity is shaped at that younger...
The reflection that you get back tells you what you are. You only know based on the reflection you get back, right? True. So like these guys know that, so they go, don't reflect. Like the lion goes, I'm a lion. And they go, nah, I reflect back to you a kitty cat. And the lion's like, wait a minute, I think I've been a lion every other time. Rah. And they go, nah, you're a kitty cat. And the lion at some point goes, oh, fuck, I'm a kitty cat, and runs away. It's like, oh, shit.
Well, as you say that, like what that says to me is like relationship. You know, it's like maybe you are a lion, but to me, you're a kitty cat, you know. But
you have to reflect back. Are you dangerous or are you something else? Like, are you...
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I can reflect back. Like, but this is the problem. When people hear that concept, they don't enact it right. Like what they hear is being neutral, don't act scared. But that's not the same thing. As a dog trainer, you get this all the time. You'll have a reactive dog. Somebody will come up and they'll go, is he cool? And you go, yeah, he's cool. Just ignore him. And what do? They fucking freeze. They stand like a fucking weird statue. And the dog goes, hey, what the fuck is that? And gets all growly. Yeah. What I said was, ignore. Like if we look up the dictionary definition of ignore, it doesn't say freeze and stare at something. It says behave as though that thing is not there. It does not exist. How would you be standing and talking to me if that dog wasn't here? Do that. But do you know what I mean? Like they don't hear, they don't understand that. So they reflect back to the dog something else. You know what I mean? And then the dog's like, wait a minute, what the fuck is going on? And gets kind of trippy. You know what I mean? There's another really good video. It's like, it's humans this time. There's another really good video of this guy. It's a shit video. Like it's some dickhead playing pranks. And he's like doing a zombie prank in the ghetto, right? Like, cause the stereotypical bullshit.
Oh no.
Have you seen it?
No, but
so like he's in zombie outfit makeup and he like jumps out and like people go, and like run away. You know what I mean? And like, it scares the shit out of people. Like people jump and run and everybody's like, dude, this guy's going to die. And at some point there's one where like a dude literally like starts running and drops his gun. Like it's not a smart move. Like this guy's doing that shit, but he's getting more and more brave. It's a really interesting video from the idea of the reflection and how fast it operates. Right. Because he's jumping out and he's pretending he's this thing, and other people, because he's doing it, they see, they're, oh my God, they start to run, and then everybody sees him running and they're like, oh my God. And this reflection kind of gets confirmed, and he keeps going bigger and bigger and bigger until he, at one point, it's like dark now, and he walks into like a basketball court, like one of those closed in, fucking caged in basketball courts. And there's like one entrance, and there's gotta be 20 dudes in this thing. And he comes in, he's like, bah, and they fucking scatter. Like they just fucking scatter, like climbing up the fences. And this one poor motherfucker is wearing flip-flops and he can't climb the fence. And he goes to climb the fence, and he's scrambling up the fence and he can't climb, and he drops and turns around. And when he turns, the dude is moving forward, and it's really subtle. The dude is walking towards him, and when the guy turns and faces him, the zombie guy like stops progressing. Now he's still in character, but he's not moving forward. And that makes the guy go, wait a minute. And there's this moment where they're both standing still. And then it's very, very subtle. The dude literally like shifts his weight onto his front foot. And when he shifted forward, the dude shifted back. And the moment he shifted back, the whole place just descended on him, because they saw the reflection break. They went, he's not that. But it's really fucking subtle. So in self-defense and in dog training, both of those videos are really powerful to watch and see the idea of how you reflect back to somebody and how it affects your interaction with them.
Well, and what's interesting, sorry, real quick, just to finish that point. So it's kind of like why Michael Myers is scary in a way. You know what I mean?
Well,
you shoot him.
Well, that's the thing, is like you don't affect them. That's why people get so freaked out about zombie movies, because there's like there's no effect. You're like, fuck, what do I do?
The idea behind Michael Myers was that he's the one thing in the world that is not a reflection. He isn't a reflection. He's nothing. That's why his like the technical name of what he is like is the shape. Like that's what they call the mask setup with the is
the shape. Yeah.
He's not good. He's not happy. He's not mad. He's not evil. He's just nothing. He's just blank. And that's supposed to be the fear. That's why he doesn't talk and he hardly moves and and so on. Here's I guess an observation, a question. I don't know. I really don't know. I just whenever I get the chance to speak with someone who knows as much about this, I just have to ask you. So I totally buy everything you just said. Here's my struggle with it is someone like me, for whatever the reason, I had my hard stuff, I guess, growing up too and all that good stuff, but I can't get out of my head ever. I'm totally one of those. I have like super high anxiety. I have all kinds of things. And I'm aware, like I'm an intelligent person. I know to watch for reflections. I understand the concept of like, I'll get into this in a second, the competition thing, but even if logically I'm aware of X, mentally, emotionally, I get stuck.
Okay. So this is going to turn into a philosophy podcast as opposed to business or dog training or jiu-jitsu, as everybody was expecting one of these things. But this is, again, to me, it's all the same shit, right? This is super relatable. And I had
you can apply this to anything.
I had this exact same lesson with a dog training client, like literally a week ago. Okay. So this is the deal. Getting into philosophy.
I love this so much.
Thoughts and emotions ping off of each other, right? So in animals, emotions drive behavior. Like thoughts don't drive, emotions drive behavior. You hear something, you get scared. Scared says run, you run. You want to be affectionate with that thing, so you move towards it. Like emotions drive behavior, if that makes sense, right? So there's a study, I'm going all over the place, but I'm going to relate it to you. There's a study that Temple Grandin in her book, Animals Make Us Human, she talks about it, right?
I love that book so much.
It's a great book, right? So the study, if you haven't read the book, there's a thing that she talks about these rodents that are burrowing animals, and they have this they have this repetitive digging behavior in their enclosures.
It's like a stereotype, right?
Right. And everybody goes, genetically, they dig. Like they're genetically predisposed to digging. And her thought was like, digging is an action. Emotions drive behavior. So why do they burrow? They dig to make burrows. They burrow to be safe. So she put some of them in an enclosure that had non-malleable surfaces, right? So you could not dig, but there were these pre-made burrows. And then there was this surface where they could dig the shit. It was like sand or something. They could dig to their heart's content, but couldn't get anywhere. The digging went up in the ones that were in the sand, and the digging reduced in the ones that had burrows. So she was hypothesizing that emotions drive behavior. I need to feel safe. The genetic predisposition is in what makes you feel safe. So for that animal, safety is achieved by burrowing. Do you know what I mean? So like they're gonna like, but it's the desire for safety, not the desire to perform the action of digging, right? So emotions drive behavior. That's in animals. Humans are interesting. Like I said a minute ago, humans have a cognitive ability that other animals don't have, right? So we can have thoughts, and those thoughts can drive emotions, and emotion can create thoughts. So there's this bridge between your thoughts and your emotions. There's this book I read called The Upward Spiral, really good book. It talks about like depression and stuff. And the idea is that emotions can cause you to have thoughts. In animals, they just action. It's just action. So for us, they can cause us to have thoughts. Those thoughts can create more emotions. Emotions can create more thoughts. And you can get into a spiral. You can get into a downward spiral. Do you know what I mean? So like you can wake up and be just a little sad for no reason. Like you have, some days you wake up and you have a headache and you don't freak out about it. Some days you wake up and the acidity in your stomach is a little higher and you don't freak out about it. Some days you wake up and you feel sad. It's a neurochemical situation. But then we start to go, I'm always sad. I'm destined to be sad. You have all these fucking thoughts about the emotion. Then the emotions create more thoughts, and then the thoughts create more emotions, and you get into this downward spiral. And what everybody does is they try to create upward spirals. So they try to surround themselves with fucking Gary Vaynerchuk, Tony Robbins, and fucking your 5 most influential fucking people. You know what I mean? Like they
butchered those on purpose.
But they like, you know, they listen to fucking Jocko, and they listen to people that are rah, 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 go, go, go. And they're trying to expose themselves to positive thoughts in the hopes that those positive thoughts can kick positive emotions kick more positive thoughts, and they're going to ride the spiral upwards. But the issue is that you are still malleable. You're still pinging off of external stuff and riding spirals. So instead of controlling the bridge between your thoughts and your emotions, you just hope to it's like dog training, man. Like people bag on purely positive dog training. They're like, they'd manage forever, just avoid the mailman, just avoid it, right? And balance trainers are like, no, man, you can't do that forever. Maybe that's a first step, but you can't do that forever. But people, when they start talking about emotional control, they don't discuss controlling their emotions. What they discuss is management of stimulus. Surround yourself with positive things so you can kick a positive spiral. Avoid negative things so you can avoid a negative spiral. But what you should be doing is learning how to control the bridge between your thoughts and your emotions. Right. So there's a thing. Now this gets into how do you do that? It's the next question is, well, how the fuck do you do that? Right. And this is where almost every single philosophical or spiritual thing in the world has always advised meditation or prayer. Right. Always.
Let's do this.
So the idea is to learn how to do breath work. You have to learn how to do breath work. You have to learn how to meditate. Yep. And I know that sounds like some douchey fucking hippie.
No. Honestly, I literally had my therapist literally just talked to me. He's like, you know, most entrepreneurs suffer from a shit ton of stress.
You have to.
And you got to figure out your meditation shit.
So the problem is people talk about meditation and they talk about some fucking ethereal hippie bullshit. And it turns people off. People that are into the fucking practicality, that want to get the fucking work done. Yeah. Like I'm not into esoteric bullshit, dude. I'm really not. Like I'm just not at all. Like in any way. I need to know reasons and fucking why. I'm not like you go control your breathing. And I'm like, how the fuck? Like when I was a kid, it was one of my first books that I ever had as a kid was Grey's Anatomy. Cause like my karate teacher was like, punch them in the stomach and they won't be able to breathe. And I'm like, why? I need to know like, why. So I got a fucking anatomy book and I'm like, oh, that's the epigastric plexus and it causes the diaphragm to contract. Okay, cool. Now I understand why you fucking made me do it. I need to know why. So when somebody says meditate, it's not enough for me. I can't deal with the just because I said so or because hippie shit and butterflies. I can't do it, right? So the idea is this. Emotions only demand action when they get to a certain level. So if you're in parasympathetic nervous system, like if you're in fucking calm, you can feel sad, but it's not going to demand action. You can feel angry, but it's not going to demand action. Like you can feel these things, but they don't demand action until they get to a point where you start getting into sympathetic nervous system activation. When you get mad enough that your fucking heart rate goes up and your breathing starts to get fucked up, now that emotion starts to get to a point where your body goes, this needs to be acted on. Like you need to fucking do something about this, right? And it starts to get to a point where you're going to feel, in air quotes, out of control. Like,
well, it's already acting on it. If your heart rate and all that's rising, it's a physical characteristic, like it's happening.
Oh, it's
physically.
happening, but you need to do something. Like now your brain, like at a certain point, emotions are designed to drive behavior to solve problems.
Right.
And that's more mammalian brain stuff.
That's what they're for, right? So like if you can experience an emotion, if you can control the activation between your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous system, so you start to get a feeling and it starts to jack up, you need to be able to pull yourself out of sympathetic and into parasympathetic. The way to do that is by breathing. If you learn how to control your breath physiologically, not hippie, not some fucking Buddha shit, physiologically.
Right.
I can lower my blood pressure. I can lower my heart rate. I can increase my respiratory rate. I mean, I can decrease my respiratory rate. You know what I mean? Like you can physiologically pull yourself out of sympathetic and into parasympathetic. Now you're still going to have those feelings, but they won't feel like they demand action because they're not at a level that feels critical to your body. But that is a physical skill. That's not some hippie control your emotions or bullshit. That's like learn how to pull yourself out of sympathetic so you won't feel like you need to demand action. You can experience this emotion. I can sit with it, but it doesn't need to be acted on because it's not kicking me into sympathetic.
Right.
And the next problem is repetitive thoughts, intrusive repetitive thoughts. Because if I can control myself, that's cool. But if the thoughts start poking at me and poking at me and poking at me and poking at me, there eventually I'm going to get caught in a cycle of these thoughts, and those thoughts are going to pull my emotions back up, and then it's going to be a downward spiral, right?
Right.
So you have to learn how to deal with intrusive repetitive thoughts. How do you do that? You learn how to focus on something. So both answers are the same. To learn how to breathe well enough to pull yourself out of sympathetic, you have to focus on a breathing pattern. In order to focus on a breathing pattern, you can't lose yourself in thought, because if you're going 1, 2, 3, that motherfucker won't ever shut. Oh, God damn it. I'm off my count. Hang on a second. 1, 2, 3. What am I going to do for tomorrow? Oh, fuck. I'm thinking again. I hate the fact that I always think. Why do I always keep thinking? Fuck. I'm thinking about thinking. Fuck. 1,
I'm thinking
2.
about thinking.
You know what I mean?
True. It's true. No, that's the truth, man.
So you have to learn how to focus on a thought and block out and repel intrusive, repetitive thoughts. If you can do those two things, you can control your emotions. Now, I'm not saying control your emotions, because I will feel sad and I will still have to experience it, but it will not create intrusive, repetitive thoughts that then demand emotion, that then demand action.
Dude,
and if it makes an emotional thing, I won't get pushed into an action that I'm not doing intentionally because my emotions have gone past me and I now can't control it. So you have to learn how to breathe and focus on your breath so you can control the bridge between your emotions and your thoughts. And if you do that, you don't have to then freak out about controlling all your exposure to negative or positive things to hope to God you avoid negative spirals and hope that you can catch on some upward spirals.
Right. And in my mind, I was just trying to make sense of it. Like as you mentioned, instead of controlling the outside stimulus to affect your thoughts, right? Because that's what people do the outside stimulus stuff for. It's almost controlling. I mean, it is you're changing your physiological state, in order to control the emotion.
Yeah, I mean, I can experience an emotion.
Like some Wim Hof type stuff.
I can experience an emotion, but if it gets to a certain point of physiology, like if it pulls me into sympathetic, it's going to demand action. Something.
I love that.
Something. It's going to demand action.
So is this something you learned dealing with your own stuff, or is this something you learned through martial arts, or is this something? I mean, obviously, you're a curious brain, right?
Exposure to Buddhism is pretty rampant in martial arts, especially when I was growing up in Japanese martial arts. And so, like, I was exposed to shit like that at a very young age. Didn't understand it. Couldn't process it. So I couldn't understand it. So it didn't get to the point where I could do it. And there's different practices. There's daily practices, and then there's kind of emergency practices, right? Like when you are really starting to spiral up, like trying to have a breath practice to like pull you out of the spiral. So I had to learn how to do that at a young age because just, my life was fucked up and I had issues. Like when I was young, I actually caught a lot of diagnoses. Oh yeah.
You mind sharing those or?
I was intermittent explosive disorder. Like I would black out and fuck shit up. Like
no shit.
Oh, yeah.
You go red zone.
Oh yeah. Like wake up and be like, uh-oh. And you're like, dude, it was bad. And like hurt.
Did I do that?
No, it was real bad. It was like, I'd wake up like in a closet covered in blood and be like, what happened? And like, you fucked him up really bad. And we threw you in the closet until it passed. You know what I mean? Like it was bad.
Wow.
It was real bad. So intermittent explosive disorder, borderline personality disorder, which is the way they used to, it was back in the 80s, what they called bipolar, just emotional swings, just really bad emotional swings. I just had my rage system was out of control and I didn't have any emotional control. Like I was literally at the mercy of things happening. Like I had like triggers. Like if somebody touched my face, I would just fucking
motherfucker.
But just like I mean, like not like, hey motherfucker, don't touch my face. I'm wicked upset.
Yeah.
Like I mean, like just breathe,
go for the kill.
like pupils blown out, slobbering, like fucking off, like off the rails. And it's like it was a matter of if I don't get my emotions under control, like I'm gonna be dead. Like no question. Like I caught a bunch of charges when I was fucking 15. I turned 16 locked up. And it's like, like the DA suspended my charges, but they told me we're doing this. We're giving you enough rope to hang yourself. We're doing this to give you one last chance, dickhead. Like one last chance. If you get your shit together and you don't get arrested for a fucking year, we'll drop these charges. You'll be 17 and we'll seal your juvenile file and you can go into adulthood with a clean record and have a fresh start. But if you fuck this up, by the time you get arraigned, you're going to be almost 17 and we're going to charge you as an adult. And I was in Louisiana and they're like, you're going to go to fucking Angola for years.
Wow.
And I was like, I've got to get my shit together. And so for that, I was in a facility for like 6 months waiting and then I got out, but it's like, dude, I had to get off drugs. I had to stop drinking. I had to learn how to control my emotions. And it's like, that was the beginning of the gun to your head. Like, you've got to figure, this isn't like you ought to figure it out. This is like, you got to figure this out, dude. You're going to die.
It is life or death at that point.
Yeah, it was like, that was it, you know? And so like went back to my childhood exposure to Buddhist practice and breathing and meditation, stuff I didn't understand. I was too young and didn't fucking care, you know? And started reading about it and really got into studying philosophy, you know what I mean? And started studying Stoicism and Nietzsche and different things like that. So like eventually came to the understanding that I have now about how to control myself, you know? And not control myself, like not bottle it, but like to be able to experience things. Because when you say control your emotions, think like you're supposed to be Dr. Spock. You have nothing, you know what I mean? And like, man, I can be shockingly flat. I can go through some things that would really upset most people and just be like completely like nonplussed about it. So that freaks people out a little bit. But it doesn't mean, like the way I describe it to most of my students are, emotions are like weather, you know? Like clouds roll over your house and it might rain on you, but like you experience it. But like if your house is solid, you can sit inside and fucking drink hot cocoa and not worry about it. And just you can, whatever. I can choose to go outside and dance in the rain if I want to. Like I can go outside and enjoy the rain if I feel like it, but I don't have to. I'm not at the mercy of the weather. I can experience if I choose to, and I can hang out inside if I choose to. So it's like, I don't mean be dead inside. I mean, choose what emotions you allow yourself to go dance in and which ones you want to ride out, you know?
Right. Like go out in the sunshine if you want.
Yeah, go out in the rain if you want to.
Then go for it. It's your choice.
Fuck yeah, of course.
So two things. Number one, it's Ambassador Spock now. He got promoted when his the alternative future Spock died, and then he takes his place as Ambassador Spock.
Oh no! Yeah, you need to learn. You definitely need jiu-jitsu in your life. Bro. You got to learn how to fight, bro. If you're gonna correct people on Spock's rank, you definitely got to learn how to fight,
bro. But number two. So that was kind of my segue to Brent's favorite part of the show, where we start talking about jiu-jitsu, because the funny thing is
man, he'll train eventually.
Yeah, I mean,
no, I totally. Honestly, the only thing keeping me, I dislocated my shoulder 3 years ago. That's the only thing keeping me from jumping.
I'm 5 months out of shoulder reconstruction, man.
Well, the problem is like I still till this day haven't properly PT'd it, like where it still feels funky, and I don't know if something's wrong with the rotator cuff. But dude, I remember I was playing tug with a dog 3 months after it got dislocated, and he yanked it back out, and I remember being by myself being like, I gotta put this thing back in.
Yeah, it's a bitch.
So what I did is I got a water bucket, I filled it up with water, and I hung over my I had a table, kitchen table, and I just dropped the water bucket on my closed fist, and I said, boom, and it just popped it back in, right? But fuck, that was I don't like that feeling.
No, it's bad. I don't like dislocated
joints. So that's the only thing keeping me from it. But I would love to do some jiu-jitsu for sure.
Well, here's the so like the reason why this kind of comes around to jiu-jitsu, I mean, you were already talking about how the martial arts culture tends to be, even if it's not like formal, like if a lot of martial artists don't say like I practice and read into Buddhism, like they tend to have a certain feel, if that makes sense. Like I think people who train know what I mean. Like gyms have a certain kind of vibe to them of like kind of laid back, you know, like, and it makes me think of that sort of thing. And it also, it's funny that like you have, it sounds to me anyway, like you have this or had this thing growing up that's like the same yet the perfect opposite of me, where if I got nervous about something, I would just kind of freeze.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I was one of those where like growing up, I was deathly, and I mean like super to the point of irrationally afraid of conflict, like physically fighting and stuff like that, you know. And again, childhood stuff that we won't, you know. And the way that I got really, not like really like weirdly comfortable, but like just comfortable with the idea is combat sports. You know, I grew up boxing, I did quite well, and that was fun. And then I you know, jiu-jitsu, I got into later. I got into jiu-jitsu maybe when I was like 19, and I kind of did it on and off, and I, you know, and it just, something about it gives you this feeling of like grounding. And something that I noticed that I wanted to bring up since earlier was, in my opinion, I think one of the biggest issues with like human adults doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu, but I think we forget a very valuable skill / lesson that we learn as kids, which is the importance of competition. Even if it's like a pickup game with friends at the park, you know, just, I think people forget how important it is to learn how to win and learn how to lose and learn how to play as a team. And sometimes you did your best and it just wasn't enough. And like, and all of that I feel like is so great for people to know. And I feel like as raising kids and all that stuff, it's so important to do. And that's what I like about jiu-jitsu. And you were talking about breathing, learning how to like breathe. And I've read lots of books. I have audiobooks on like guided meditation for cognitive behavioral therapy. Like I've really made a conscious effort to develop these skill sets, right? I personally, I'm lucky enough that like I can be real calm while rolling. And I know that that's hard for newer people because I'm new too. I'm a white belt. I've got a couple stripes and that's it.
Yeah.
And I like to be calm. Whatever music's playing in the gym, I'll sing it if I know it, like while, you know, and that helps me focus when I'm in the middle of doing something physically. Like I would assume I'm like a physical learner because I can be doing this with this hand, that with that hand, grabbing with this hook and, you know, whatever, and still singing a song and relaxing at the same time. And it's almost easier for me to focus when I've got like 5 different things going on versus if I'm just sitting on the couch, I can't focus for anything.
Yeah. A lot of times it pulls your focus. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You can't be in your head too much and process. Do you know what I mean? Like you just can't.
Yeah.
Like if you're nobody won a chess match at a high level while they were obsessing about some other subject other than chess. Like you just can't do it. You know, there's a bandwidth issue. And so a lot of the times, one of the reasons people find mental health benefits in martial arts and various activities is they find these things that require concentration. Even if it's not concentration, because you're not really concentrating when you're flow. You know what I mean? You're kind of the opposite of concentrating. You're just kind of like,
you're like creating.
It's like you're surfing. You know what I mean? Like you're just riding.
Right.
You can't really think at the speed that the shit is happening.
Right. Yeah.
But you need a certain amount of bandwidth to process. Even though it's not cognitive, you can't spend any of your bandwidth on other cognitive shit, or it'll pull so much bandwidth you won't be able to process. You won't be able to run the jiu-jitsu program because you're spending too much bandwidth thinking about your fucking ex or your fucking boss or whatever the fuck your problem is. You know what I mean? You're not going to be able to process it. So it demands attention and pulls you out of that cognitive shit, you know, which is really important, man. Like it's like, man, part of everybody's problems, and this goes into dogs as well, is that we don't live a life that is that's congruent with our biology. And that creates a ton of stress. Like, dude, when you're chopping wood and carrying water to live, people will go out and like camp and shit like that and come back and go, I felt so much better. Part of it is like, you got to get shit done. You know what I mean? Like you got to go get fucking firewood. You got to like make the food. You know what I mean? Like, man, if you're chopping wood and carrying water, it's really hard to get fucked up about no, I'm not saying, no, don't get me wrong. There are clinical, pathological, mental health issues that cannot be fixed by living a natural life. Like I'm not trying to say, I'm not one of those people that I've been around mental health issues, both my own and my family's, for so long. Like, I'm empathetic about that. I'm not going like,
Right.
if you have clinical depression, you'd feel totally good if you were just out chopping wood and carrying water. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But what I mean is what most people are referring to as mental health issues are actually just living incongruent with their biology. Like if they lived congruent with their biology, they'd be fine. Now, there are still some people that even if they lived congruent with their biology, they would still have fucking issues and they would still have work to do.
Yeah, that was the reason I picked up rock climbing years ago. Was I remember the first time I went actually rock climbing, like it was early in my entrepreneurial game, and you know, all you're doing is feeling and thinking and feeling and thinking and feeling and thinking, and then as soon as I'm put in something that needs my biological skills of climbing up something that parallels a life or death situation, I'm so concentrated. And I remember feeling so just mind blown at that time. So just to kind of confirm what you're saying, like that's huge. That's huge. And the same thing, even like that's what I assume maybe jiu-jitsu does for you too, because you're technically in a fighting situation, right?
Well, jiu-jitsu is interesting, man, because it's a fight in the sense that the physical skills that you are learning are combat skills, right? Like, yeah, if I'm playing basketball or flower arranging, I'm getting all the same benefits, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be wicked good at free throwing and not choking the shit out of people. You know what I mean? So like any activity can be used for mindfulness, and any activity can be used, you know, to achieve a flow state or whatever. But in jiu-jitsu, the skills that I'm practicing, there's a host of benefits when you believe in your ability to fight. And it's not your ability to fight when, you know, self-esteem is essentially self-efficacy. Like for you to believe that you can navigate your world safely and you can control your environment and your situation, that is self-efficacy. That's where you feel safe and self-esteem. You know what I mean? Like you feel like you can do something. The way
that's a good way to define it. Yeah.
Teaching
I'm
a
not in
dog
over my
to
head.
be somebody, right? But like, so jiu-jitsu is unique in activities because it teaches you an actual fighting skill. And so the day that I end up in a thing where somebody is trying to assert a little power over me, or somebody is trying to intimidate me, or somebody's trying to push in like that, or affect me in a way where they're relying on my fear of confrontation or my fear of fighting, and they're trying to manipulate or coerce me, like I am not susceptible to that because they don't hold any power, because I'm not stressed out about what they're talking about. It's like if you tell some billionaire, I'm going to give you a $200 fine, and they go, okay. All righty. Somebody's like, I'm going to beat your ass. And you go, okay, dude. All right, sir. Well, have fun with that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even get upset.
Yeah. Good luck.
But you know what I mean? But it's like, that's a really interesting benefit that you get from jiu-jitsu specifically, as opposed to Tai Chi. Tai Chi is wonderful. You can get mind flow, and you can get, you know what I mean? Like you can get all kinds of cool mindfulness benefits, physical benefits, all this awesome stuff, but you still can't fight, which means you're subject to coercion and intimidation, which is the bane of a lot of people's existence, man. A lot of anxiety comes from the fact that you know you're not safe. This is also where a lot of the need for social acceptance comes in. Social acceptance is a safety strategy. It's a safety mechanism.
Right.
Dude, have you seen those things?
It's one survival skill.
Have you seen those experiments where like everybody gets in an elevator and everybody's in on it except one dude, and like the doors close and everybody on the elevator turns right, and the one dude that's not in on it is like and just kind of like turns he just turns right, like, okay, this is fucked up and weird. It's just, why do you have this like this icky, this is fucked up feeling? Because dude, look at a picture of a herd of gazelle. All of them are looking one way and one's looking the other way. Where does your eyes go? Like your eyes go to the fucking one looking the other way. Do you know what I mean? Like when you're looking for prey and you're looking at a sea of beings looking for prey, the one that stands out is the target. Like standing out is danger. If you're talking about feeling safety in numbers.
Sure. Yeah.
The beings that don't feel safe in themselves, pack animals, herd animals, the beings that are like, like gazelle, I can't fight at all. I can't fight at all. Like how do you get safe if you're a gazelle? You get in with a whole bunch of other gazelles and you go the same speed and look the same fucking direction. Because if you're standing 3 feet off, if you're looking left, dude, you're getting eaten. So like the urge to fit in is an urge for safety.
Right.
I don't have that as much because I can make myself safe on my own merit. So I'm not as susceptible to the like, I need acceptance. There's this biological driver for acceptance as a self-efficacy tool, as a safety making tool. Right. But that hole exists in your head. Like people always fill these biological holes with this stuff that has nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? Like instead of learning how to take care of themselves, they just get a better car or a better job or like a nicer house or like the cool clothes. And all they're doing is trying to like have some kind of like, look at me, I have stuff, I'm going to be okay. You know what I mean? They're just trying to fill the hole in their head that goes, you're not fucking safe with all this other bullshit.
I got a question on that same note. So there's always kind of like this triune, right? Like your physiology, your thoughts, and your emotions, right? There's kind of this interconnected, right? And so, you know, I see that people have liabilities in one or multiple of those realms, right? So like, for example, I've always felt extremely safe and secure because at a young age, I knew I was competent enough to figure shit out, right? So that covers my mental, right? I can figure a problem out. I'll figure it out. I'll get to the bottom of it. Not a big deal. And also I was demonstrated to me by my parents at a young age, you can do anything you want to do. You want to fucking build it? Go build it. You want to go buy it for yourself? Go fucking do it and buy it for yourself, right? So, but for me, if I was going to get real deep, it was like my liability lies in emotional feeling adequate because I'm the youngest of 4 siblings and everyone wanted to hang out with me. You know what I mean? So we started like little basic shit like that. So I'm good in 2 realms, but that last one of wanting to feel social acceptance or wanting to be liked or loved by my peers or my siblings, whatever it is, right? You can go as far back as you want. Everyone has liabilities in one of those, which leads to an insecurity or not feeling safe or not feeling completely content with yourself, right? And some people don't feel like you feel, if I can assume, you know you can handle the physical realm. Like I can handle it. No one's gonna fuck with me. You know you're smart enough.
They'll fuck with me, and I can totally lose a fight. I'm not saying I'm super.
Well, sure. But it's not going to break you.
No. You know what I mean? Like I made peace. The truth is you have to, it's not about being some badass, and it's not about like thinking you can't be bested or you can't make a mistake or things can't go wrong. Things can go horribly wrong. Anybody can lose a fight I could lose a fight to a 12-year-old kid. Just, you know what I mean? Like you can get clipped the wrong way. You fucking slip and fall and fucking crack your head and like you can lose a fight. There's a number of ways that you can lose a fight that you shouldn't, you know? But I made peace with it. You know what I mean? Like the way to freedom is it's not to be like, I can win anything. I can do anything. It's not that. It's to go like, what comes next? I'm okay. Like, what are you going to do?
And at least feeling competent.
You're going to kill me?
Like feeling competent
in
each of those.
You know?
People
always get weird about that when I'm working with, like, when I deal with aggressive dogs, you know? Like, it's not that I'm not scared to get bit. Because I'm not. I don't take risks. I'm not being stupid. Like, I use safety gear. You know what I mean? I'm not just like, whatever, bro. I don't give a fuck. I'm not like that idiot.
I can get bit.
But at the end of the day, dude, like, at the end of the day, like, I love that dog. And that dog it's like you see people rescuing a dog that's like stuck in a drain and the dog's trying to bite them and they're like, I hear you, dude, but the water's coming and I got to get you out. Like, they're like, I'm going to get bit, not because they're Billy Badass and they don't care. It's like, they got to help this dog. And if that means to provide you what you need means like take a bite, then so be it today. You know what I mean? So like those people have made peace with what comes. And they try their best. It's like, dude, it's like a bicycle. I'll ride a bicycle. I know I can fall down. I can slip and fall. I'll have a wreck on a bicycle. Like, it's a big deal. But like you make a reasonable, you know, like I have a reasonable expectation of what a common bicycle accident's going to involve. And I'm okay with it. Now I'm going to try my best to avoid it. I'm going to develop enough skill not to do it. I'm going to wear a helmet. But at the end of the day, man, if I fall off my bike, then like I fall off my bike and like I'm going to make peace with it. And if I'm like unable to do it, like, go ahead. Sorry, I was talking over you.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was just saying you don't make it bigger than what it is what you're saying. It's like like getting bitten by a dog. Like, yeah, nobody wants that, but bites suck. But it's not like the end of the world. I think I was in the camp that like a lot of people now, I'm sure, are in the camp of like, you know, the worst thing about competition in boxing, because I've only competed twice in BJJ, like competed. competition in boxing, nothing is ever scarier than just before the start of the first round. Like, dude in the other corner, who is your same weight, of course, because they fucking weight class, but they look huge, and they're sitting there like shadow boxing, and they're look
Superman,
scary,
bro. They're super.
And you just can't. Well, at least my brain can't help but like, I'm getting kind of, and at the same time, like, again, I know it's the thought and emotion thing, but logically I'm like, well, I train well, like I belong here. Obviously I'm here, like, but it's super scary, and nothing is better. And I'm sure I'm sure you felt this before. Nothing is better than that first, when you get hit one good time with like a jab, you're like, oh, okay, I was scared of that. Like, it doesn't feel good, but it's like, oh, whatever, and then from there you kind of realize and you get comfortable.
There's levels of the fear, like the days leading up to it are the worst. The day of a fight is the worst. It's the worst. It's just the shittiest fucking feeling. It's just super unnatural. Just it's so horrible. It's just like the worst fucking feeling ever, right? And then once you start warming up, once they're like, time to go, let's start warming up, you are still nervous, but it cuts like 2/3 goes away, because it's like, now we go. You know what I mean? Like the ball's been pushed down the hill, and there's this aspect of kind of warrior culture that is like, once it's there, it's there. Like, you know what I mean? Like you step into it, like you move forward. Like there's no, at a certain point, like once it's time to step, you step forward. Like there's just no, it's not even a question. Like you just go. Like, you know what I mean? So when they're like, it's time to start warming up, it's almost like, now it's like you can get scared right before you jump out the airplane. But once you jump out, I mean, I don't know. I've never fucking done it, but you know what I mean? I'm assuming you might be scared of falling, but it has yet to occur. Isn't like it's occurred now. Like here it is, dude.
Right.
So once we start warming up, you're like 2/3 less scared, because you're like, okay, it has begun. And then once you make contact, it all goes away. Like once you make contact, then it's a fight.
Now you're present.
Yeah, then it's a fight. It all goes away. Because I've been fighting since I was a fucking fetus. You know what I mean? Like, so it's
fighting in the womb.
You know what I mean? Like I'm sure my mom was getting kicked right in the gut when I was still in there. You know what I mean? I've been taking headshots since before I breathed. So
I love that.
You know what I mean? Like, like fighting's fighting, but up until that moment, it's brutal.
Well, it's the anxiety. The anxiety. I just have like anxiety in general. So like it would kill me, And one that I've never jumped out of an airplane either, but one that I feel like for some weird reason may be kind of similar, which I have done, is I heard from somebody. It was like, I don't know. I saw this in a video. It was like Kanye or some celebrity was like, you know what you should do when it's like, if you have a pool at your house or in your apartment complex or whatever, and it's like cold. You ever walk by it and be like, what if I jumped in this right now and it'd be fucking cold? And like if you've ever jumped into a pool when it's cold, like because you were kids doing stupid shit or whatever, and there's that moment, there's like that 10 seconds of standing there kind of bouncing, trying to get yourself like psyched to do it, and you're so worried about it, and then you jump in and it is cold, but you're just kind of like,
but it's done.
Oh, this is cold, but oh, okay, and then you just get out, and then it is what it is, right? And then you warm up, and like it wasn't even that bad, because you don't have time in 2 seconds to actually like get cold, so you shiver for 5 minutes and then you're good. You're not like hypothermic. So it's but the lead up is so fucking terrible. So this person, whoever this was like, jump into the pool every day. If it's cold, I don't care. If it's this, I don't care. If it's raining, I don't care. Just to get yourself over this like anxiety, to just do it. It's
so
just
the bitch about that strategy is, there's a lot of times, this is in dog training as well. I keep trying to remind people of that.
This is a dog training podcast.
You will do things that fix the picture, but they don't fix the problem. You know what I mean? They fix the picture, but they don't fix the problem. So like, I had the compulsion to act like, man, if I got nervous, like I'd fucking swing. Like there was like emotions demand behavior, right? Like somebody would upset me, I'd fucking smash them. If I was getting, dude, the second I was like, I think I'm going to get kicked out, I was just like, here we go, turntables over, let's go, dude. You know what I mean? Like get pulled over, you're like, get it done. Like here it is. Like here it is, dude. Like it's happening. Like jump in the pool, dude. Like fuck the anxiety, fuck the sitting around. Like let's blow this shit up. Like it's coming, so let's just fucking do this, right? Right. And I never dealt with my anxiety because I never had time, because I just fucking went. But it's I hated the feeling, so I just fucking go. Like, you look at me, smash. Like, Like, what'd you say? We're breaking up. You know what I mean? Like, I quit. I quit. You know what I mean? Like, they're inhaling to say you're fired, and I'm like, I fucking quit. You know, like it's just like I hated that feeling, and I thought I was taking control of that feeling in air quotes by like acting immediately to fuck that feeling. But then the problem is when you can't control the external circumstance, i.e. the fight is next Wednesday. Right. And there is no go, just do it. I can't just call the guy and do it. And then you're just like, I have no skill in dealing with this feeling. Like all I've ever done my whole life is just immediately jump in the pool. Just immediately, as soon as you think it's going to be cold, just jump in the pool. And I have no skill in marinating in this feeling because I have always just acted so fast. I never had the feeling. So it fixes your picture. Like you spend zero time in your anxiety and that fixes what you think is a problem. But the problem is that you can't tolerate marinating in that feeling. That's the problem. The picture is that you're feeling too much anxiety. You can you can change your circumstances and feel zero anxiety. If you can spin all the plates just right, you'll feel zero anxiety. And you have fixed your picture, but you have not fixed your fucking problem. Because once something hits and you cannot control it, like you can't spin the plates and make it go away, you're deeply fucked because you have no practice in controlling the feeling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. Okay.
And dude, this whole first hour of this podcast is, I love the direction it went. We had a whole list of questions. Fuck those questions. However, we do have to take a commercial break real quick, and we're going to jump back on, and I do want to ask you a couple of the questions on this list. But we'll get to it right after this commercial break.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to Dog Trainers Podcast. You know what's a great way to support this podcast? By becoming a sponsor today. With sponsoring the podcast, you'll be helping us make this show the best it can be, and so much more. From hosting more local events, traveling throughout the country, and connecting with trainers from around the world. Ultimately getting you, the listener, more of the content that you love. For more information, please contact us at dogtrainerspodcast@gmail.com or visit our Instagram page at dogtrainerspodcast. Thank you guys, and now back to the show.
All right, guys. Again, this is Season 2, Episode 10, our interview with Mr. J. Jack. So thanks so much for listening, and let's get right back at it.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. So we are here talking to Mr. J. Jack. If you guys don't follow him, you guys can check him out at Next Level Dogs on Instagram. You can also check him out at www.nldogs.com. Right before this, we've been talking a lot about, human philosophy, growing up, upbringings. I mean, a whole lot of stuff. But as Jay assures us, it is associated with dogs. And that's actually something I wanted to open up with, Jay. Is we know that, back when I was in college, and I don't know, like back in the day when you guys were in school, if someone was a psychology major, whatever. Right.
Here's a trivia quiz for you. What do you think? What do you think the last grade I completed was?
Wait. Let me see. So you grew up in the late 70s. Yeah. So and 80s. So there wasn't necessarily like legal expectations. Like now you can't not finish school as a minor because your parents or whoever will get in trouble. So you dropped out.
Dude, that assumes my parents cared about getting in trouble, dude.
So then you're furthering my thesis here. So this means you could have dropped out early, like earlier than would even be like legally acceptable, let's say. So
I was thinking like more based on how if the way I speak, like most people.
You would assume you went to fucking college the way you speak. That's
a silly way to assess it.
So, okay.
I mean, the way you look like a baby. But other than that,
a baby.
And I could be totally off base here, but see, now I'm like reverse psychologizing you. So, like, since you even ask and like make a joke out of it, I'm assuming it's early in your years because
freshman year of high school. Let's just say that.
I'm sure at freshman year, Jay, you're aware that you speak well.
He even said but he said that he was in when he was 14, 15. He was getting all the girls. He said all that, so it was at least freshman.
But that didn't
sophomore year of high school.
That didn't necessarily have to happen in school, though.
Definitely. So let's let him answer. Let the guy answer.
So I dropped out.
No, he wants us to guess.
Oh, go ahead.
I did. Freshman year of high school. That's it.
7th grade was as far as I got, man.
I was gonna fucking say 8th grade. Oh,
7th grade. That was as far as I got. Yeah, man. I got my GED in jail. And I did 7th grade, and I did my GED in jail. Yeah.
Was GED the packets, like the credit packets?
Yeah, like you had like a little. It was good. The only reason I did it was because it was either that or work. You had a choice in juvie. It was like you either do your GED or you got to go work.
I mean, I've never been a juvie, but I did continuation school for high school, and they have like little credit packets. Like you do one packet for math, you earn 1 credit, and you have however many credits for the year, so you have to do this many packets for each.
It was like a 2-month like study thing, and then we took a test, and then if you pass the test, you get your fucking GED.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So going back to the point.
Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, back to the point.
I got kicked out of every goddamn school I ever went to. I was like, I had like restraining orders and shit. It was so bad. I was a piece of shit when I was a kid, man. No control.
Oh my God. I can't. I want to talk about all that stuff, but we got to get the show going. All right. So we were talking about right on the break. We were talking about mental health, and we were talking about how dog training there's a lot of mental health that is relatable and parallel in dog training, not only from obviously understanding behavior, but also like I through times of my sadness and depression and growing up, dog training helped me find answers and solutions and a discipline that helped me build. And there's a lot of dog trainers out there, especially people who listen to our platform, who have their own mental health and background issues. And so that's just kind of something I wanted to touch base on a little bit, is like the importance of how even though we're talking about jiu-jitsu, even though we're talking about mental health and philosophy, how all of that helps and affects dog training, right? Whether as a practitioner or for the actual dogs that we're treating. So, I want to kind of dive into that a little bit.
I mean, I think it's interesting because like when people say mental health, they're almost always talking about people. You know what I mean? Like when they're like, "Oh man, mental health is a big issue," and yeah, of course it is. And we're talking like, there's got to be like veterinarians have like X suicide rate or whatever. You know what I mean? Dog handlers. There's a lot of dog handlers, dog trainers that have serious things going on. I know a lot of them, and it's like, yeah, mental health is a real important topic for the dog training industry from the human perspective.
Right.
But realistically, like we do mental health for canines. Like that's legitimately, you know what I mean? Like, man, it's weird how dog training somehow got reduced to sit down, stand, heel. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's really weird because that is the least important, least valuable. You know what I mean? Like it's just so not that important. You know what I mean? Like it's important. Don't get me wrong. Like being able to do, like I need to be able to have my dog stay in a spot without being physically contained because the world has porcupines and railroad tracks and cars and shitty people with lawyers. You know what I mean? Like I need to have my dog walk on a loose leash because I got to go through a populated fucking area and I can't kill everybody. Yeah. But
and I think if I were to just think of a reason, I think obedience training was probably the easiest thing to put in a package. To pack
That's exactly what I was going to say.
And sell, right? Like it's only modern day people are preaching play and play programs. Sure. And only modern day people are talking about drive expression, yourself included. Like this whole idea of we've also heard that comparison of like who has the best dogs? Homeless people. They have the best dogs. And they don't sign up for obedience classes, and they don't do this. Or my grandmother, she had 9 dogs that she rescued off the street, and they all fucking listened to her.
I mean, some of it is the fact that there's an advertising or a marketing component. Right. Like it's easier to quantify. To say your dog's going to be wicked happy and better behaved, it's kind of a hard.
If he knows how to sit down, stay. Yeah.
But I could go, man. I can give them 7 basic commands, and they'll go, oh, okay. You know what I mean? What did my dog learn? Your dog, like when you tell your kid, "What'd you learn in school today?" If they went, "I learned how to be more empathetic to rejects." Like that's not
right.
You know what I mean? Like that's a huge fucking lesson in school. One of the only valuable parts of school. But they'll go, "I learned, in science class, I learned blah blah blah." You know what I mean? Like,
Can I get your thoughts on this? So this is how I like to explain the importance of the simple commands, sits downs, this, that, to clients or like newer trainers. And we gear this podcast mostly toward like people who are newer in their dog training career. So I'd love to have your thoughts on this. Okay. Agree, disagree, whatever. So kind of like raising a child, there is no thing, no one objective, no one like task you can set for a kid to teach them to be a good kid. Like what is a good kid, right? Quote unquote. But you can teach them things that on their face none of them equate to a good kid, but they develop the peripheral skill set. So, for example, you can teach a kid to brush their teeth after dinner. You can teach a kid to load the dishwasher. You can teach a kid to clean their room before they go out and play with their friends, or finish their homework before they turn on the PlayStation or whatever. And none of these things in and of themselves make you good. You can be a bad kid, quote unquote, bad adult, whatever, and still do what you have to do before you play your video games and stuff. But in order to brush your teeth after dinner and do all this stuff, you have to learn time management. You have to learn how to prioritize. You have to learn how to set your what you want to do aside in order to do what you need to do, and those things can make you a good kid. So the way that I explain the importance of obedience commands to clients is I get it. Sit and down and place and this and that. Don't make a dog don't fix the issue, whatever the issue is, right? What they do is what Brent was talking about with the rock climbing thing, was in the face of a stress, in the face of uncertainty or extreme excitement or whatever, it gives you a blueprint. Or even like you were talking about with knowing BJJ, and if you were fighting professionally, then others to stand up and whatnot, right? So knowing that you know how to fight, even if you don't necessarily plan on utilizing these skills, because you know how, you think of a potential confrontation in a different way. Two guys who don't know anything about anything get in each other's face and get very emotional and get very hey, fuck you, bro. Almost like the intimidation factor to avoid the actual fight, versus somebody who knows. They look at things very pragmatically, let me watch his right foot to make sure he's not putting weight on it.
So look, before you go too far down the metaphor, I agree with you. The problem in the dog training industry is not that what you're saying is not correct. What you're saying is a way to achieve the goal you're talking about. The problem is there's other ways and no one understands that. That's the problem.
Right.
Because I absolutely agree with you. 100%. However, instead of teaching impulse control, delayed gratification, respect of authority, all this other shit, instead of using obedience to teach it, I teach that in play.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like when I take a kid, I teach a kid jujitsu. I don't teach a kid to do their math homework. I don't teach a kid to mow the yard. I don't teach a kid to but I change kids' lives by teaching them martial arts.
Right.
But we've never had the discussion about, they learn delayed gratification at my gym, but they don't learn delayed gratification fucking cleaning their room. That's some other, some other thing we got to talk about on a different day in another set of circumstances. But it's not that without, and this is the issue. People go, you need obedience to teach these lessons. And that is a false statement. You do 100%. Not need obedience to teach those lessons. In fact, 100%. I would argue it is the least efficient, the least natural, and the least fun way to teach those lessons.
And that's something.
But the problem is the real motherfucker is that it's the easiest way to teach.
To teach the client.
It's the easiest way to teach new trainers.
True.
Because dude, if you,
I see what you did there.
If you want to teach somebody, what's easier? Teaching somebody how to run a math study group? All right, everybody comes in, we're going to do the math homework. We're doing problems 1 through 6, and you got to finish all of them before you leave in the next 1 hour. And you got to sit here, and when you get done, put your pen on the desk. I can teach you delayed gratification. I can teach you respect of authority. I can teach you impulse control. I can teach you a bunch of lessons like that. Or I can teach each kid and coach them in an individual sport. I can teach all those same fucking lessons. Which one can I pump out the most people to a level of competency at tomorrow? Running a fucking study hall.
So that's fucking mind blowing to me, because I'd never put that correlation. So if I'm hearing what you're saying correctly, are you inferring that because it is the easiest to market to practitioners?
It's the easiest to learn how to do. So here's the problem. This is where we get into that Windows thing, and I'm not going to go super deep because there's so many other shows where they've had me on that to talk about it, right?
Yeah, I'm totally going to pitch those.
This basic idea, the stress involved in most people with their dogs is that we have conflict or disagreement over what mode of operation we are in right now. So real quick, I use this metaphor. It's nothing new. It's not TM J-Jack's window theory. It's nothing. It's nothing new. It is a metaphor that I use to describe what I see excellent trainers doing. Excellent people that live and train well with their dogs, what I see in them, what I observe in them. It is the way that I can explain it to other people to see the magic of what they're doing. It's nothing new. It's just it's a description. It's not a new concept. It's not a new fucking system, right? Okay. So the idea is that there are 3 basic natural modes of operation. I call them windows that dogs can operate in. They have go find their own fun. It has nothing to do with you. You're not involved. They're chasing a butterfly. You're not part of the picture. They're expressing their drive and finding their joy, and it is not involving you.
Right.
There is play with you. They are expressing drive with and through and because of and with you. Whether it's literally with you like a tug in my hand, or it's with me like you're pulling the weight and I'm with you going, come on, buddy, you can do it. Like, I don't mean
like a teamwork.
You know what I'm saying? Like, like dock diving, I'm with you. You know what I mean? Like that's through and with and because of me. So there's play with me in spite of the environment. There's play with the environment in spite of me. And then there's just hang out and be chill with your family. Like they're not expressing drive. They're not trying to fucking do anything. They're just like hanging out, man. They're loose and chill and free and with their family. Every healthy, natural dog has at some point in time those 3 windows, right? Now throughout history, dogs vibed with us. Like for tens of thousands of years, before we had language, we had dogs. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they learned to read the play. Like they learned to kind of read the room and go, oh shit, this looks like a chase butterfly moment. And they read it correctly. And so we had no issues. We were not in conflict. And then when we all kind of went and settled in, the dog went, yeah, I see what's up. And they and settled in.
We're settling. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why grandma had her fucking dog and had no fucking training in air quotes, but the dog was perfect, man. Perfect.
Oh, no, she had 9 dogs
Perfect.
at the same time.
Because the dogs read the play and got on the same page as grandma. And so nobody had an issue, right? Now, the more modern our world becomes, the more specific the parameters a dog can be safe in are. So back in the day on a farm, the dog could be in the fucking go find your own joy window for 9 hours unbroken. Who gives a fuck?
Right.
But now, you know what I mean? Like now there's an edge of the road you can't get to, or you know what I mean? Like, you know? And so we have to go like, I need to give you some unnatural parameters. You can't just go be free or go be chill. You need to have some parameters. And that's when we made what I call the work window. So we tell the dog specifically, hey, I need you to stay for a reason you can't comprehend. I can't explain this. This is not natural. This is totally fucking arbitrary. I need you to stay here. Or, hey, I'm going to open this door and I know that you think that's the signal to go find your own joy. But realistically, I need you to not run through that door right quick until I check outside and see what's up. But like they can't understand that. That's not fucking natural. But we have to teach them how to do this completely arbitrary, unnatural thing that didn't exist 10,000 years ago when Grok was running dogs in the wild. You know what I mean? Like that shit didn't exist. That's not natural. And so we had to teach them work. And then it becomes ease. Because if you're not good at handling dogs and teaching dogs how to live and teaching clarity in these other natural windows, you default to the work window because it's the only way you can get agreement. Somebody knocks on the door. My dog thinks the knock on the door is the signal for find your own fun in spite of dad. I want them to be chill. They want to go bananas. We're in disagreement over which window we need to be in. And I go, fuck it, place. And now you know, and I know, and we agree. I'm going to pay you for doing it. And so you're willing to do it happily because you're going to get paid. Right. But why do I need to place you? Because I can't think of a way to teach you what window I want you to be in. If I can teach my dog how to be calm on command, like when the knock on the door, they open the door and my dog wants to get jazzed and I go, hey, easy. And my dog goes, I hear you, Pop, and shuts the fuck up and chills out. I don't need place. I don't need sit at the door if I can teach my dog to just not run out the fucking door. Like I don't need to teach these arbitrary commands if I can get buy-in and cooperation on which window of operation we're in. But the people that are unskillful at teaching like how to get into these other windows, the dog can't read the play and you can't think of how to tell them the play. So then we just go heel, sit, down, stand, place, because now at least we're in agreement about what we're doing here. And we don't experience the conflict of being in the wrong window, because conflict over the windows is what gets dogs put down and taken to the shelter.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
Right.
You know what I mean?
100%.
But a less skillful trainer can find very fast success in a dog that is bad and a handler that is bad. They can teach them how to agree on the work window faster than any other window with the least amount of skill.
Right.
And so it gets put out there. So
in regards to the windows, so like two things. Where people, because this is just a quick little overview of the windows. I listened to an episode of Chad Mackin that you did a couple years ago. Are there other episodes of podcasts that people can check out and actually learn the windows in detail?
Me and Larry Crone did a live one with me. We talked about it on that.
Windows.
On Instagram?
No, on his Facebook page. We talked about it on
Facebook.
that. I have a video that I give clients.
YouTube?
Okay.
Yeah, I have like a handout that I give to all clients. That's like,
Cool.
I don't know. It's like, it's got to be like an hour of videos, like instructional stuff. Like, hey, do this.
No, I love that.
Like, do this before we do a lesson.
Right.
And like, I tell them, like, look, don't.
Is that up for public access?
Yeah, it's on Next Level Dogs. It's on the website.
Next Level.
You can just download
So anyone who has not had the privilege of seeing J Jack do his thing at a seminar, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, also. Check out on Next Level Dogs, nldogs.com.
nldogs.com. There's
understand that window theory.
Man, there's on that PDF, there's like the layered stress model. There's a presentation on the layered stress model. There's a presentation on blue ribbon motions. There's a presentation on the window theory. There's like how I load the markers. You know what I mean? Like it's, I love that. You know what I mean? I like give that to clients and, you know,
I'm reading.
If that fixes it, you don't need me, then congratulations.
I'm reading the neuroscience book right now, Effective Neuroscience.
Yeah, Jack.
So I'm learning all about that stuff. Fucking one chapter at a time, I'll tell you what.
No, that book's a tough read, bro.
One chapter at a time.
Thank you for listening to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers, for dog trainers, or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
We really hope that you enjoyed this episode and can't wait to be back with you guys. Be sure to follow us at Dog Trainers Podcast on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And don't forget to punch the hell out of that subscribe button and leave us a review.
Remember, guys, this is your podcast. You're the best listeners in the world, and we'll see you next time.